Hey guys, it's the Best Smile here with What If Deku Had a Transformation Quirk Part 1. But before we start, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Also check out my Discord in the description below. But now that's out of the way, let me explain what I mean when Deku has a transformation quirk. Cause you guys are probably thinking, probably not sure what I mean when I say Deku has a transformation quirk. Well, let me explain. In this What If, Deku has the ability to transform into any character from other universes. So you can transform to Stitch from Little Stitch, or Spinner from Steven Universe. Which reminds me, if you have any ideas for transformations, please tell me in the comments below. And there will probably be a list on screen telling you what I already have. But now that I've explained what his quirk is, let me start the video already. So just like in the original story, Deku is born without a quirk, and because of this, he's bullied horribly. So when Deku gets older, he has less confidence. It doesn't really matter just yet, because we're going to have a time skip. So now we're at the beginning of the anime, with Deku sitting in class trying to mind his business. But then the teacher walks in with a bunch of papers, and with people test scores on them. I can't speak. Then he tells everybody they all passed their test, and that he could explain why choosing your future is important. But he can already tell that all of you want to be heroes in the future, which makes everybody start to cheer. But then, like usual, Caution causes an explosion and begins his rant saying that he's going to surpass All Might. He's the only person who is going to be going to UA. Now, everybody here would be lucky to be just sidekicks. The teacher mentions how Deku actually wants to go to UA, which makes everybody laugh, except for Caution. He doesn't find it funny. No, he's pissed. He thinks Deku's trying to ruin his moment. So he decides to teach him a lesson by blowing up his desk, but before he can do any real damage, the teacher stops him. But as soon as class is over, Caution showed up to the Deku's desk and grabbed his collar, where he begins to threaten him. But he lets go. Instead, he takes his notebook and tells him that if you want to be a hero, then maybe you should take a swan dive off the roof. He then burns the notebook and throws out the window and begins to leave. And then in the end, just leaves Deku with those words he just told him. But instead of Deku going home, this time Deku didn't go home. Instead, he goes to the roof and looked down. He thought to himself, maybe I should just jump. Maybe I could get a quirk in my next life. When Deku tried to jump, he noticed something. The minute he jumped off, he was floating. But that's when he was pulled. He realized that somebody's holding his shirt collar. And the minute he noticed him, he got pulled and he fell back onto the roof and landed on his butt. But instead of asking him who he was, he just asked him why he saved him. Then he noticed something. The man looks weird for starters. It looks like he doesn't belong in this world. He's wearing a blue and red hoodie, with a light blue hair covering his eyes. So then Deku asked him who he was, but the man just responded by telling him there's nobody important. Then tells Deku that he shouldn't jump off, which makes Deku question him why he shouldn't. That's when the man told him the only reason he wants to jump off because he's powerless. But he can change that. After hearing this, Deku asked him how? What he meant, like how was this possible? That's when the man opened up his hand, created a miniature universe with miniature stars and galaxies. The man began to explain that if Deku liked, he could give him the power to become any being he wants. He could become an alien space noodle, or medieval plague doctor, or a freaking sentient slime that gives hugs and kisses. That's when Deku asked him how is that possible? Why would he do this? So the man begins to explain. He's sort of a watcher, that he's been watching Deku in his life, and begins to explain that he wants to give Deku a chance to become the number one hero, that if Deku would allow him, he could give Deku the power of the multiverse. As when Deku asks what exactly is this power, that's when the man begins to explain that there are many universes he watches, and he could give powers to become either the villains or heroes from those universes. That's when Deku asked him, can he really be hero with a man with the man just retelling him. Of course, and all you need to do is grab this book. And Deku is completely sure that this man is telling the truth. He decides to grab the book. That's when Deku's hand begins to glow. Then his veins, then his eye glows. Then the rest of his body glows. And that's when Deku realizes there's now some sort of symbol in his palm. But the symbol soon disappears. But when Deku opens up the book, he sees 5 pictures with some words and pictures, with the rest of the pictures blank. Deku then asks that if he can become any being in the multiverse, then why don't he 5 pages? That's when the man tells him that if he gained access to every form, that he would be too OP. So he has 5 for now, but don't worry. If you want, there's more than one way to gain more forms. And that's when Deku asked him, how can he access more forms? The man just tells him that he will find out later. Right now, he should study his forms because he's going to be using them soon. After hearing that, Deku asked him what he meant. That's when Deku hears a giant explosion and asks him, what was that? That man just told Deku that it's probably his friend Contra getting aggroed by some sort of sludge villain. That he should go use his new forms and save the bully. Then he begins to leave, but before the man leaves, Deku asked him how he uses his new power and what is his name. Man just tell him that all you need to do is activate the power is for him to say the name of the transformation. And you'll find out his name in the future. But then the man disappears with just him just telling Deku, you'll save that kid. So Deku did just that. He started to run. Looking through the book, he thinking what he can transform into that could save Kachan. But none of the descriptions seem to be able to deal with fire and explosions. Then he gets to the 5th page of his book. It was the last page that wasn't blank. He saw something that could help. A form called Ghost Rider. Before Deku could finish reading, he bumps into somebody. That's when he sees Kachan being held hostage by a sludge villain, while the hero is spinning to save him. The minute Deku saw this, he looked back at the book and screamed, Ghost Rider. That's when everybody sees a huge glow made of stars and miniature galaxies. Basically Deku got surrounded by space. But as soon as the all disappeared, you see a man with a leather jacket, flaming skull head. But the man just walked past everybody and walked in the fire. Which made everybody ask, who the hell is that guy? But then everybody noticed something. The fire is being absorbed. And the flaming skull guy is pulling out a chain and throwing it at the sludge villain. The minute it hit the sludge, the chain burnt the sludge, and instead of hitting the sludge, it grabs Kachan. Then Deku pulls him out and throws him to the heroes. The sludge villain screamed that he ruined everything. But then Deku tells him to shut up. And shoots a massive fireball at the villain, burning him. But then the fire stops. And he is left a small piece of the sludge villain. Everything else burns to crisp. But then when Deku defeats the villain, Harry surrounds him and asks him, what the hell is this quirk? Is he a new hero? Or something? But then Deku noticed something small. Like a chain on his pants. Or a small pocket watch. Yeah, this is a reference to another character to also be a main part of Deku's power, so deal with it. But what Deku sees is that the watch is about to hit 12. But it hit the end. And when it does, Deku transforms back to himself. And by noticing the man just defeated a villain that 3 pros couldn't defeat, was actually a middle schooler. But they're more curious about his quirk. As soon as the heroes saw this, they stopped their protest and scolded the young boy for getting involved. But admitted he had a strong quirk, and they hoped he became a hero in the future. Can't speak today. I can't edit either. And then they let Deku go home. On his way home, Deku stopped at Kachan. Kachan is pissed, starts screaming at Deku and asks him how long he's been hiding his quirk. But Deku doesn't answer him. When Kachan is pissed, he charges at Deku and grabs his collar. He begins screaming to tell him the answer. Deku doesn't say anything. He just looks down, and after a while, Deku's collar leaves. But he says some final words saying that he will surpass him and become the number one. The minute he leaves, Deku reaches into his pocket and pulls out a pocket watch. And he questions, what the hell is this? But then, he hears a familiar voice telling him that it is a timer. That's when Deku turns around and sees the man from earlier. But Deku soon asked him what he meant by timer. The man begins to explain that Deku was allowed to stay transformed for hours at a time. He could just stay in one super strong form in one shot already, so he had to give him a time limit. But don't worry, you can increase it. Deku just responded by asking him. Asking him if he's going to tell him this time, or just leave again, leaving him confused. Like for Deku, the man does tell him how he can increase the time limit. But the minute Deku finds out, he's shocked. Because the only way to increase his time limit, and for him to get a new form, is for him to defeat villains or enemies from other universes. After hearing this, Deku asks a far more important question. How the hell are villains from other universes showing up? The man just responds by telling Deku that he's sending him here. And it's kind of boring with any real villains. That he needs to spice it up. And then he disappears. That's when Deku thought to himself, just what the hell is this guy? Is he a god, a maniac, or both? But Deku did know that his adventure becoming a hero has just begun. But now that Deku knows what to expect, he decided that you need to train. Because now monsters or people from other universes are going to show up and hurt hundreds because he decided he wanted a power instead of the man's deal. But Deku wouldn't let this happen, so he would continue to train and master all his transformations. So far he only had 5 forms. Luckily the book the man gave him has information about them. And just so you guys know what forms he has, I'm going to list them and where they're from. First there's Ghost Rider from Marvel, Venom who is also from Marvel, Spinel from Steven Universe, Pikachu from Pokemon, and Predator from obviously the Predator. Sadly the book only tells them their powers, but not how to use them. Because the minute they go try to use Spinel, he becomes so tangled, then was like caught by his mom. But then Deku decides to find a place where he can train. Luckily after a while of researching, he found a beach that's completely covered in trash. So Deku decided to test out his forms there while also while also cleaning up the beach. Luckily due to Venom's super strength, he was able to clean up the beach very quickly, and thanks to Venom's switching powers, he can grab things that Venom can't reach. Then Deku noticed something. Venom is superior in strength. Dang it, I made a mistake. Deku noticed something. Spinel lacks strength, and her scythe can easily break if he uses it incorrectly. So Deku looks up a video and learns how to fight. So when he uses Spinel, she's extra dangerous. So now Deku knows how to fight. But Deku also has Pikachu, which gives him a lot to think about. Deku thinks that Spinel and Pikachu are not really threatening looking. They can use their appearance and just break everybody. Oh, and just so you guys know, the version of Spinel I'm talking about is the small version, not the emo one with issues. After 8 months of training, he has mastered all his current forms, except for Pikachu and Ghost Rider. Pikachu has too many moves, and Deku can't figure them out without instructions, and it's difficult to figure out Ghost Rider without a training partner. But that didn't matter because Deku needed to take the UA exam. Since he's not nervous, he doesn't trip. But what he does know is that a girl's about to fall. So last minute, Deku transforms to Spinel and extends his arm to catch the girl. He asks her if she's okay. Before the girl can even say thank you, he notices Deku and Spinel's woman and screams saying that she's so cute. It attracts a bunch of people. They're already curious when they saw somebody transform, but now they just heard a girl scream and a little kid kicking her cheeks pinch. Luckily most people mind their business and don't ask questions. After they look away, they could transform back to normal. Now it's super awkward, because she thought she was pinching a little girl's cheeks, but instead she found Deku. By the way, Uraka is super embarrassed and apologizes. He says it's okay and introduces himself. Uraka does the same thing, but they soon say their goodbyes and go inside. After Deku takes the recent part of the exam, his assistant sat the auditorium and listens to President Mike's lecture. The Deku's mumbling to him something about what form he should use. But then a boy with glasses stand up and asked about the fourth robot. Most telling Deku to stop mumbling, that he's distracting everybody. But after the person might explain the third pointer, the leg calms down. But soon after, Deku and everybody is sent outside for the physical part. Deku sees Yoraka and tries to say hi. But Lita gets in the way and says that it's not hero-like to distract people. But they just tell him it's not like that, but he's sent away. While Deku's walking back, everybody looks at Deku and starts questioning why the hell is he here? Cause Deku only trains his forms instead of his body, so he's not at all buff. He's basically the scrawny boy. But the minute the alarm goes off, Deku screams Spinel. And everybody sees Deku get surrounded by stars and galaxies and darkness and everything else. And he becomes a little pink girl, a heart gem on her chest. But as soon as he transformed, every guy was like, what the hell? And every girl was like, oh, how adorable child. But then Deku uses Spinel stretching powers and turns his feet into a spring. He bounces away, his leader following, and then everybody else. But the minute Deku finds a web, he transforms to Venom. With Venom's size, he smashes the robots and then begins to rampage by either biting the robot's head off or smashing them. He's doing so many that people get distracted and almost get crushed by robots. But luckily, Deku sees the chance to see this and transforms to Predator. He throws a bomb blowing up the robot. But after 5 or 6 minutes, Deku runs out of time. Luckily, he recharges periods only about 2 or 3 minutes, depending on how much energy you use. So he instantly gets back into the fight, and it throws even more robots. But after 5 minutes, he transforms back to normal. The second he does, he sees a bunch of people running away. That's when Deku felt with a huge rumble. But then he saw a giant robot, and as soon as he saw it, he decided that it's not for fighting, that he should go run. But before he could run, he hears a cry for help. Soon he sees Uraka, and then he looks at his pocket. He noticed the watch. He still has another minute or two before he recharges and can go back and fight. I think I can make it. So Deku begins to run. He tries to let the robot fails. That's when he hears a click, and then he looks at the pocket watch. He realizes he can transform. So he transforms to Venom. He lifts up the rubble and runs away with Yoraka. He gets her to a safe place, leaving her with fellow students who are horrified by Deku. But then Deku looks at his pocket watch and so, I got time. So Deku transforms to Spinel. He jumps at the robot, but after he jumps, he transforms to Predator. And with Spinel's giant leap, and Predator's claws, he's able to latch onto the robot and begins to grapple and climb up it. But when Deku gets to the robot's chest, he transforms to Venom and breaks into the robot. When Deku gets inside, looks at the watch and notices he has only 1 minute. Deku transforms to Pikachu, and even though we only hear Pika Pika, what Deku is actually saying, only have one strike. He uses Electro Ball and destroys the robot by shorting it out. Before it could fall, Deku jumps out, transforms to Predator, and shoots a grapple that saves him from falling, and puts some distance between them and the robot. Then Deku transforms back to normal, but he's latching onto the side of a building. He's not that high, but he still falls like 7 feet since he was on the building. Then a bunch of people show up and look at him. They think he just destroyed a giant robot. He's a scrawny looking kid as he look at Deku, standing there like nothing really happened. But what Deku doesn't really know, that a bunch of teachers are watching him. They're mostly asking him one question. What is this kid's quirk? And why does he rest for like 2 minutes after only using his power for 5 minutes? If Aizawa was just saying that it must be his time limit. But what they don't know, that All Might ask himself, how many forms does he have? But guys, the video is getting kinda long, so I'm going to end the video here. But don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And also check out my Discord in the description below. But with all that said, don't forget to stay safe, and go beyond plus ultra.